stay in the office.
You gotta read it.
That's going to stay in the office.
Here's the hard part.
Yeah. Man, our fearless leader, John Buonaguidi, thanks.
But here's the...
I was always afraid of you.
Here's the famous thing that John always said out on the sales call. And it got down to where it was that critical moment of, you know, it could go either way. And John would present his offer and he would just say, hey, we'll put up or shut up. You know, we'll put this tracking number in and we'll put up or shut up.
What they usually say, if you'll shut up, I'll buy.
That's funny.
Thank you very much.
And I started reading through that and started putting notes to it. I thought of John's assistant, Kathy Lambert, when he was the premise branch manager. And I go, Kathy, tell me a funny story when you were with John, and she had a ton of them. So I go, what's your favorite? And I'll make sure I tell it. And she's really apologized not being here today, so she wanted me to extend that to you. So I guess there was a big meeting that John had to fly out to, and he was a premise branch manager at the time. So Kathy Lambert, who's a very well-able assistant, books his flight, gets everything taken care of. She's talking to the airlines and said, hey, would you like a free upgrade? She goes, it's going to cost more money. No, it's not going to cost more money. Don't worry about that. We'll put them on and we'll put them in first class. So he's like, okay, cool. So John really doesn't know what's going on, right? So he jumps on a plane. I think it's in San Francisco. He jumps on a plane in San Francisco. He's sitting there in first class, kicking back. Next thing you know, regional vice president comes in, walks back to coach. Vice president walks in, sits back in coach, runs up there probably with champagne. So he gets off the plane, calls Lambert. Lambert, you put me in first class, what are you doing? He's like, don't worry, it didn't cost us any money. So I told him I'd tell that story.
That's a true story. One of them was your dad.
That's funny.
Well,
So that brings me to John's timeline.
that doesn't
we don't
matter.
have all evening. I had to break it up into retirement. So I'm going to take the first retirement. Dennis is going to take the second retirement. So oddly enough, John was hired August 6, 1972. What's pretty strange about that is his replacement was born in that year. What a coincidence!
Yeah.
So he started with Pacific Bell in Los Angeles as a business office rep, and then probably got tired of that pretty quickly because he got promoted to management as a communication consultant in Inglewood. Thus his affinity for the LA Dodgers, I guess. Later that job evolved to an account executive where he was selling. In 1979, he was assigned to San Francisco as a marketing practice writer for the Horizon, which is a phone system. Probably where he got his creative writing, you know how John writes. But those practice writings are pretty dull, though, when they're writing practice. He was also a staff manager to advise and counsel on Dimension PBX phone system. So back in '79, a state-of-the-art phone system consisted of 5 line buttons and a red hold button. I think it came in a rotary phone or a touchtone. So he was selling the state-of-the-art phone system.
That still was a premium.
In 1982, he went to the field in the Oakland branch where he managed 16 marketing administrators working large key accounts. In '85, he went back into sales, smart decision, and worked for Southwestern Bell where he joined Silver Pages. I think that's where he met Dan Herman, Kathleen Bednarik. Did they ever print a book, Silver Pages? Or did
No,
they?
we were like those walking figures.
So I don't even know if a book ever got printed, but he sold the product, probably never printed.
Yeah.
So he was an ultimate salesperson.
Yeah.
In 1986, he then transferred to Pacific Bell Directory, where Doug Hewing hired him into the San Jose office.
Doug Ewing.
He there was the premise branch manager, so he managed all the premise managers for San Jose. At that time, we probably had 8 to 9 premise managers in that office, since we serviced the San Joaquin area, the Fresno branch, as well as San Jose. That's when I got to know John, and there's some great stories that I just come to mind. I know all of us, CSS is near and dear to our heart, right?
Yeah.
So back with Pacific Bell, we had a conversion as well. It was IMS. We went from like one computer for 30 people to everyone getting a computer. It was kind of different. So I remember John in his office one day, he's yelling out to Kathy, his assistant, Kathy, you gotta order me more whiteout. I got a lot of mistakes, I gotta cover up my monitor. Order more whiteout. Another story that I recall, I remember one of our GMs, Stuart Graham, he was pretty upset. We were working in the San Jose office, and he's having work reviews with all the managers, and he's really steamed. So now this story came from Rodney Godwin, so I need to verify this.
What about Stuart Graham?
So as John's going into the work review, he's kind of counseling Stuart. It's like, you know what? Whatever you're going to tell me, it's not going to be that bad. I walked point in Vietnam, and it really is not going to be that bad. So you can beat me as much as you want. And as it turned out, I think Stuart was mad that the San Jose product dipped into the $60 million range. So it really wasn't that bad. With that, John burned through 5 GMs in the San Jose office. Doug Huey, Jim Stice, Stuart Graham, Linda McGregor, Terry Moreno, and Dick McDonald. Dick wanted to be here as well, but Michelle Barnes' father passed away, so we asked Dick to sit in for him. In 1996, December 30th, 1996, John took early retirement. It was such a enhanced retirement. I think he got 10 years added to his service and 10 years to his age. Just teasing. So he made a lot of money on that early retirement in '96. So his next term of service was only probably at that time 15 years, even though on paper it looked like 20-something. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dennis for the second half of his career.
So after only a few short years in 1999, John returned as a contract worker in the Fresno sales branch. And this is my favorite part, John, as I was reading through your history. And then it says, October 9th, 2000, rehired as a temporary manager. So in the Watsonville office, and then in 2001, about 8 months later, changed from temporary to permanent, and then you've been down there. In 2006, it was a huge event for John, as he was able to bridge his previous experience so he could take more vacation.
Man, I couldn't have worded it any better than that.
And then that brings us today to the second retirement. But then I thought, kind of looking back on your history, you know, really when you think about what we do in our line of business, it's all around facilitating commerce between